Hey guys, J1 here and welcome back to another video. As you can see right here behind me, I have my pet fish, Benny. I've had him for over a year now, so today's video is going to be me giving you guys some tips on how to raise a pet bass. Now the most important thing for you to do first is to check your local laws. Where I'm at, it's illegal to keep game fish. I caught this one at a private pond, so there's no like size limit on whatever that you can keep since it was caught on private water. Anyways, so first thing, check your laws before you get a fish. Okay, so you've checked your laws, you can get your fish. What's the first thing that you do? Well, the first thing I can tell you is to get an adequate tank size. This one right here is 90 gallons. Get yourself a big tank. It doesn't matter what size fish you're trying to keep. You want to make sure they have more water rather than not having enough. Next thing that you most definitely need is structure, rocks, plants, etc. So I'm gonna show you guys some of the examples right now. As you can see here, we got the rocks and the gravel on the bottom, as well as a few big rocks such as this one and this one. The big tree right here, I got that at a local trail. Check the size for it, make sure it fit. Brought that back home as well. And the final thing I got, you don't have to get this right away, but you definitely need it in the first few days of having your fish. I got some Hydrilla right here. It is a native plant species here in many ponds and lakes. So I brought it, he's chasing some minnows. I got it back here as well because you have to have plants, and right now I'm gonna explain why. As you know, us humans have to breathe oxygen in and we breathe out CO2. So fish, like Benny right down here, do the exact same thing. They breathe in the oxygen using their gills and they breathe out CO2, right? So you gotta have something that's gonna get rid of that CO2. Otherwise, it's just gonna be clogging up in the tank. That is what the plants are for. They get rid of the CO2. And I also have, this is temporary. I only do this when I do water changes or add in minnows. I have a bubbler right here, as you can see. And I put that in so that the water is well oxygenated. Another very, very important reason for the plants is ammonia. Now, the ammonia cycle is quite difficult in tanks. I'm not the exact expert to tell you guys on that. So there's many different things that produce ammonia, such as a dead minnow or something. Like if one falls on the bottom, it's gonna happen. That produces ammonia. So what happens is something called ammonia poisoning. If a fish gets in water that has too much ammonia, they can die from it. So the plants right here, they also take ammonia out of the water. So the plants are a must-have in your tank. Okay, so you've caught your fish. What are you gonna do? Naturally, you're gonna put the water into the tank, correct? What I do, personally, is I take my hose from outside and I just run it through my window and put the water in. Sounds easy enough, right? But wait, there's more. Before you can even think about just dumping water into the tank, you have to have this. Now this right here is water treatment, AquaSafe Plus. You can get this for probably about $10, Petco, Walmart, wherever. You gotta have this so that the chlorine and other chemicals in the water from the water hose is taken out so it doesn't kill your fish. So now you've got your fish, you got your plants, trees, rocks, water filled up, treated, and everything. Your fish is in the tank, chilling. Now, what you're gonna wanna do, since you've just put him in the tank, you wanna give him at least 2 or 3 days with the lights off and nobody messing with him. That's the biggest thing. Taking a fish out of their natural environment and trying to get them used to the tank environment is very, very hard. So having people coming, looking at the tank, stressing them out, light will stress them out too. Just leave the lights off and let them chill. Another thing, they're not gonna eat for a few days. So don't just try and, put food right in his face expecting to eat it. Benny right here didn't eat for a whole week. I was 1 day away from releasing him. I was like, if he's not gonna eat, I'm gonna release him. But I ended up feeding him minnows and then he ended up eating them. So that's a segue into our next topic. Now for your new pet fish, whether it's a bass, bluegill, crappie, whatever you have, the first big thing is finding the food that they are gonna wanna eat first. I tried feeding Benny worms, grasshoppers, everything, and he just wouldn't eat. I put a worm right in front of his face. He'd just look at it, nothing. Finally, I went to Petco, picked up some little tiny minnows, and I put them in there. Walked away, came back in 10 minutes, they were all gone. He wanted minnows the most. So whenever you first get your fish, I'd recommend putting minnows in there, really small minnows, nothing giant that's gonna scare them, or just something small. And then once they start eating, then feeding them is relatively easy. Once you've got your fish acclimated to your tank, you've got him fed for the first time, he's actually eating, everything's going well. The next step is actually feeding him over time. So what are you gonna do to feed him over time? For me, I go up to my local bait shop. I get 2 dozen little minnows and I put them in the tank with him. And then about maybe a week and a half later or so, maybe 2 weeks if he is conservative, they're gone. So that is what I do to feed him. Because again, like I touched on earlier, you don't want ammonia building up in the tank. So you're gonna have to scoop the dead ones out as often as you can. But that's what I do to feed my fish, and he's very healthy. As you can see, he's a very healthy fish. Something I forgot to mention earlier, when setting up your tank, you can't just throw a tank in there, dump some water and call it good. Got to have a good filter. For me, I spent probably about 50, 60 bucks on that filter. It's set for, I think it's 300 gallons or more. And this tank is, like I said, only about 90 to 100 gallons. So it's 3 times more filtering capabilities than the tank, which is good. You'd always rather have more filtering than not, because bass especially need a very, very clean tank. They can survive in muddy water, but it's much better for them to be in clean water. So filter is a must. Now, you've probably been wondering what this white little top is. This is another thing, you've got to have it. There's no getting around it. You can't just have an open top tank with a predatory fish in it. I've woken up many times in the middle of the night to water being up the TV and the wall, down on the floor, on the sheets, because he's eating a freaking minnow. So he'll splash water out. You gotta have a top on it. And with me, I even went the extra step and put a rock and another piece of wood on top so that he couldn't knock the top off. You gotta make sure they stay in the tank, because bass are jumpers, they'll jump out. So you gotta be careful with that too. Another tip from me, you don't have to do this, but whenever you do water changes, I typically put in aquarium salt into the tank. It generally helps. It helps them with their slime coat, and it keeps them relatively stress-free, because water changes are stressful times for your fish. So you wanna make sure that they stay as least amount of stress as possible. So aquarium salt will help. You don't gotta get it. For me, in my experience, this helped me a lot. It's only $10 for a big carton like that. So I would recommend it. Now, you've got a fish, everything's going well, he's been eating, everything's perfect. But over time, fish, just like us, they're gonna get infections, they're gonna get sick, etc. So you've gotta make sure that you have what you need to fight that infection before it happens. So right here, I got some Melafix. This stuff has been a lifesaver, literally. I've treated Benny with Melafix many times. Bacterial infection or a cut, I've used Melafix on it, and it's worked wonders. All you gotta do is just read the bottle. It'll tell you the dosage per day. You gotta have at least some medicine on site, and Melafix is definitely what I recommend. So in conclusion, don't get a pet bass if you aren't expecting the responsibilities of keeping him. Seen time and time again, people just take a little bowl and throw a fish in and expect it to work, but it never will. You gotta take care of them and be willing to spend the money to take care of them. This fish right here has made me dump money on things I've never wanted to dump money on. As soon as I'm thinking things are going well, I've been saving my money, I have to go to Petco and drop $30 on medicine to go ahead and treat him because he's gotten himself sick. So, and food as well. You know, it's 2 weeks or so, you gotta get food again. So you gotta make sure you feed him well, don't skimp on it. So yeah, if I left anything out, go ahead and let me know in the comment section down below. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and like and subscribe for more videos just like this. Before this video closes out, I got some B-roll of Benny for you. And like I said, subscribe if you're new, and I hope you enjoyed. And until next time, Jay Shimura went out. See ya.